Hello everyone, and very warm welcome to our Emotional Intelligence in the Workplace webinar. In the next 13 minutes, we will be covering multiple aspects of the emotional intelligence in the workplace as organized in the description. And please let your questions for the end. First, let's start with the definition of emotional intelligence and its five components with Aya. Aya, you have the floor.
Thank you, Eunice. So
Thank
we
you,
are going to
Eunice.
start
We are
with
going
the
to start
Cambridge
with the
Dictionary.
Cambridge Dictionary.
Can you guys please mute your mic?
Can you guys
Thank you.
please mute your mic?
So according to the Cambridge Dictionary, emotional intelligence is the ability to understand how you and other people feel and react. So in other words, it is the ability to understand and control your own feelings, which will help you in understanding the feelings of the other and respond to them in the most suitable way without offending anyone. So emotional intelligence is used to make good judgments and to avoid or solve problems in the workplace. It may come to your mind that emotional intelligence should be understood in two ways, from a listener perspective and from a speaker perspective, of course. As a listener, you should be aware of yourself and your environment. And we mean by in your environment the way you speak, the words you use, and the way you feel while you are speaking. As a listener, you should be aware of yourself and you should be aware of your movements, gestures, like the gestures that I'm making right now. And also be aware of the speaker's speech and his gestures and movements. And because as this way, you, the listener, will understand the feelings of the speaker and interact with him or her in the most appropriate way again. As a speaker, you have to be careful in your choice of words and pay attention to the listener reactions while controlling your own behavior. You should be listening and at the same time speaking and watch what your listener is doing, like his action, his facial expressions, how is he feeling. Try to understand these things about your listener because this step is important as it allows you to see if your listener has understood what you are trying to communicate or he has understood a different thing, which may cause a misunderstanding. Often people communicate something while they are thinking of another thing. Like the words does not help them to speak their minds and say the exact idea they are trying to explain. For example, your worker says, and I quote, "It's easier to do everything myself." You may understand from his words that he is um, doing all the work by himself without the help with his co-workers to do the group project or to achieve the group goals, while he actually means that he is afraid of making a mistake that will impact the whole group. And this is one of the most common mistakes, and it may lead to conflicts within the group and maybe problems that will slow the work and the achievement of the goals they have. So emotional intelligence have five key elements, and we will try to tackle each one, each aspect that will enhance your efficiency as and your emotional intelligence. The first one is self-awareness, which is conscious knowledge of one's personal own characters and feelings. And it implies understanding the traits and the aspects and emotions of the other. We mean the listener or the speaker or your coworker, it's the same way. So self-awareness can be categorized in four main characters that we should be aware of, and we can about them in a separate way. The first one is being aware of your strength points. And we mean by that being aware of personal capacities that make you different from the others in a positive way. Being approachable, being creative, have a degree in computers, have a degree in law or business are one of the examples of personal strengths that we might have but not aware of, especially the one of having a degree. It's like it's the hard skills that you have a guarantee from your university or the degree that certifies having these abilities, and that will help you to choose your job later. And these are important. But also soft skills such as creativity or patience, being approachable, being friendly with people are important also. And they are points of strength that we should know and work on improving them because, as I said, they are important. And knowing your areas of strength will make you use them more often, which will help in strengthening your position in the company and showing your boss that you are capable of doing things better than the others. For example, you are a good public speaker, so your manager will probably make you present the group uh, work and the projects, or even represent the whole company in the public areas, or he can appoint you in the public relations of the company because of your good public speaking skills. And also, you should know that being aware of your personal strength and being aware of your power will help you to boost your confidence and will make you work even more on your job and be hard worker. The second aspect of emotional intelligence and self-awareness is being aware of your weaknesses, as that the strengths we are trying to show more, and weaknesses we will be trying to hide or improve without showing them to your boss or without like expressing them in the workplace. And we mean by weaknesses the lack of strength or interest in a subject or a task. There are several examples of weaknesses that affect the workplace and your personal life also, such as procrastination, lack of confidence, or disorganization. These these species and these examples of weaknesses can affect your personal life and also your job because they slow you or make you less hard worker and be the weakness point in the group. There are also some weaknesses that we tend not to see as weaknesses. Instead, we see them as strength points, such as self-criticism or that we focus on details. Um, we mean by self-criticism the harsh part, which is like being too harsh on yourself and always describe yourself with negative uh, traits, such as saying, I lack really confidence, I couldn't talk, I did the wrong thing about this project, without seeing the bright side of your work, just focusing on the negative part. The third part of being self-aware is awareness of dark side. It may seem similar to being aware of weaknesses because the dark side is of course a weakness, but it can be represented in the traits such as anxiety, shame that may affect you um, in deep, and these are kind of contagious feelings that will affect your work environment and co-workers. Like if you are ashamed of your work or your ideas, you won't contribute in the project, you won't speak your mind in the work office, so you will prevent yourself from opportunities that will help your career and will also help the project or the work group, because your ideas are important and they can be more efficient and more interesting than the one the group is working on. So you should always speak your mind and be aware of these uh, traits, because if you do, you try to avoid them and try to be more positive. The fourth one is awareness of emotional triggers. As we talked about these weaknesses or these dark side, such as anxiety, negative feelings, we should be aware of the situations or actions or words that may trigger or start these bad situations that will affect you negatively, of course. And it is very important. For instance, your colleagues tend to do his job very late, and his weekly tasks that you have to do together until Thursday, and he should, uh, and you and him should give it to the boss on Friday. So you are obliged to do the work on Thursday instead of the working it on it separately the whole week while being at ease, and that will may trigger your anger. You will be stressed, you will be anxious about doing the work on time. So to avoid this situation, you tend or you communicate with your coworker who have to do the work with you, and you can push him to start the work earlier, so you won't have to be stressed on Friday and do the whole work only in 2 days instead of doing it in 5 days. And these situations can easily be avoided if we just know these situations and how they start. So it's the solution is there and it's easy. You just have to reflect on yourself and reflect on your daily work life to see which triggers your negative side or your weaknesses or your negative feelings, which will affect you in your work. To come back to the components, the five key components of emotional intelligence, we have the second one, which is self regulation. And it refers to controlling personal behavior, especially the emotions, personal emotions. And it is a crucial skill that helps in preventing conflicts in the workplace. While you are, for example, you are discussing for suggestions for a project you are going to start with your coworkers in the office, and one of your coworkers is does not respect the communication style, does not wait for him to take the word. He only speaks like randomly, doesn't listen to your suggestions, will may trigger your anger. You will be angry about him. You will try to stop him. You will try to show him that he is wrong. Acting in that moment when you are angry is not the best choice you have, because you will probably use the inappropriate words, which will lead to a big conflict, and that is not a good idea, and that's another conflict you can easily avoid by just regulating yourself and sitting down and listening for a moment, taking a moment to see the situation. For instance, a group of your coworkers won't react maybe or react in a different way. You will be the negative person because you reacted in a way that made everyone notice you or made everyone think that you were too cruel for your coworker. He was people will respond as your coworker was trying to share his ideas while you were yelling at him or something like that, which will give like a negative idea about you, and that and give the others an idea that does not present you for real. We have the third one is motivation in the workplace. We mean by that having a reason to do something in the workplace, and it also refers to the willingness of the workers to work hard in an attempt to achieve a personal, group, or the company goal. And motivation can be on the form of money, can be on the form like of, as I said, achieving personal goals, progressing in the career, or learning new stuff from your coworkers or your boss. The fourth one, the fourth key component of emotional intelligence is empathy, and it refers to the ability to understand and share the feelings of the others. As an idiom says that we tend to use a lot, put yourself in the shoes of the other. It refers to that you have to put yourself in his situation to see how would you react, how would you feel before taking an action. And it is important, especially while having discussions in the workplace or while having conflicts or having unfinished work you have to do together as a group. The last key component is social skills, and we mean by that the competencies that assist us in having an easy and ongoing interaction with the others. Since we often work in groups in the company or even in classes, we need to be able to communicate efficiently with our coworkers to not fall in the position of misunderstanding or creating unneeded and unnecessary conflicts that can be easily avoided again, uh, by only listening and being a good speaker and trying to use the the best words to interact or to explain your idea, and that is an important thing to do. Thank you for listening.
Hello everyone. So I am going to share with you some tips on how to improve your emotional intelligence. So becoming more emotionally intelligent involves developing the various categories of emotional intelligence that Aya discussed. So the first component that you should focus on is self-awareness, and many agree on the fact that self-awareness is the most important component of emotional intelligence, because it is highly important to understand and be aware of your own emotions before doing so with others. So in order to become more emotionally aware, become more self-aware, it is very important to pay attention to how you are feeling, and if these feelings or emotions affect your reactions on certain situations or interactions with people. Also, you should assess your emotional strengths and weaknesses. You should take notes of whether your communication with the others is effective, and whether you tend to feel certain negative feelings often. Knowing your emotional strengths will allow you to take advantage of your opportunities, because if you do not know your strengths, you won't even recognize an opportunity. And on the other hand, identifying your emotional weaknesses will allow you to work on them and find solutions, so that they do not represent an emotional barrier for they do not represent a barrier for you anymore, either in your personal or professional life. And the last thing concerning self-awareness is that you should always keep in mind that emotions are ephemeral, meaning that they are temporary. So even if something frustrates you or irritates you, keep in mind that you will not feel this way forever. The second component you should practice is self-regulation, and self-regulation can only be a logical sequence of self-awareness. Indeed, along the lines of identifying your own emotions and understanding them, you should also know how to manage them. And you can do so through many ways. So, for example, releasing the stress that you may get from the workplace can be very effective in helping you regulate your emotions, and you can release this pressure through physical exercise or hobbies or even activities that you may enjoy with your friends and family outside the workplace. And another thing is that you should always keep your cool, especially in the workplace. Never let your emotions take control over you. And if the situation is unpleasant, just accept it and try not to worsen it by reacting to your negative emotions and letting them take control of you. Either way, your negative emotion or your reaction to them will not improve the situation in any way. And as we said earlier, the emotions are temporary. This is why you should never make a decision in the heat of the moment. You should always take a step back and take the time to think and make rational decisions, because it is very common that people regret the decisions that they made and that were influenced by certain feelings, whether they are positive or negative. The third component that you should improve in order to develop your emotional intelligence is social skills. The social skills play a major role in effective communication and in setting a good workplace environment. That is why you should never neglect them. And in order to upgrade your social skills, you should start by actively listening to what others have to say. And active listening implies that you should show interest, ask for questions, and give feedback. Also, do not forget about nonverbal communication, such as facial expressions or hand gestures, because they can indicate a lot about what a person is thinking or feeling. Another thing that is important is to sharpen your persuasion skills. This will enable you to convince people to hear your ideas and to listen to you, and it will make your voice heard in the workplace, which will benefit you a lot in developing and improving your career. And lastly, do your best to avoid office drama and stay out of petty arguments. Office drama is a major source of tension in the workplace, and this is very unnecessary. It can be a serious barrier for effective communication. That is why you should always keep things professional with your colleagues and avoid drama that arises from personal matters. The fourth component that my teammate talked about and that should be improved is empathy. Becoming more empathic implies putting yourself in others' shoes and seeing things from their point of view, even if you think they are wrong. This will enable you to deeply reflect and reflect effectively on how to respond to them, because this is also important. Always pay attention to how you respond to others, because what is not offending for you may be for them. And also, being more empathic will give you a huge advantage in the workplace, since you will be able to analyze situations from different perspectives, yours and others. And the fifth and last component you should work on is your motivation. Maintaining a high motivation involves keeping in mind what you love about your work, even if it gets hard and even if you are going through a rough phase. Just focus on the reason you chose this specific job and what you love about it. And always keep a positive attitude. Focusing on the positive will attract the positive. It's common sense. If you only focus on negative things, you won't even perceive the positive things around you. So always have a positive attitude, which will have a huge impact on your colleagues' attitudes, and you will together create a positive and pleasant work environment. And this can only be beneficial for the whole organization. So that's it on the tips on how to improve your emotional intelligence, and I will leave the floor to my teammates.
Sorry for the I had a technical issue with my microphone. Thank you, Iman, to telling us how can we improve our emotional intelligence. And now let's talk about the importance of emotional intelligence with Mohammed bin Kiran. Thank you.
Uh, Thank you. Well, today it's a bit more understood across the world what does emotional intelligence represents than it were if we're talking just a few years ago. It was more like a taboo for individuals, as it's been said. Then it's usually shown over this period, and it's being studied numerous times how essential is emotional intelligence, not only in life or in certain places, but in life in general. And that's what it's all about. And those that don't even recognize it or have learned about it, they don't realize our IQ or intellectual quotient. That's something we're born with. However, we've got cases where you've had the top students wondering about kids because they have been the greatest in primary school, university, and they have had their PhDs in some good places. And they're always much less effective in their careers because now we are talking business. There are people in their careers who were just average and then they started doing the research. They started as, why is that? Why is this? How is that? It then went deeply and deeply, and then they discovered that emotional intelligence is something that makes people more successful in their careers and in their lives. What emotional intelligence is, in general, just managing their emotions when they are doing a certain amount of work, and it can be communication or motivation. It's very important to consider the emotional intelligence level because if we're talking about the emotional intelligence, that's something you have that can move you on differently from the intellectual intelligence, because you know the intelligence you can't build, you can't work on it, but emotional intelligence you will certainly work on it and enhance it. It's no matter how low you are, if you try more and more and more on working on your emotions, no matter how long you have been, you can still reach a point, improve your performance, improve your will, and wish to work and wish to succeed. Then you start working and the results are coming. Thank you for listening, and thank you.
Thank you, Mohammed, for explaining us the importance of the emotional intelligence. And now let's move on to emotional intelligence in leadership with Ruqayya. Ruqayya, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Eunice. So, in the workplace, leaders are very influential and they have to note that influence for two reasons. Firstly, they are being seen by others, and whether they like it or not, a precedent for what is acceptable in the workplace. So, it is important that leaders take note of their emotions and are able to manage them. First of all, they need to be aware of their emotions and take note of them. Then they need to find a way to feel better. And they need to also use those emotions to learn more about themselves and understand themselves so that when any situation arises, they will be accountable in the situation from their part. Secondly, they need to use that responsibility that they have to help others regulate their emotions also. When they notice any conflict, it's important that leaders step up and are able to dissipate that conflict. They should also be effective communicators and be able to put clear messages across so as not to create misunderstandings. It's also important that leaders are empathic and are able to put themselves in other people's shoes, listen, respond, and make appropriate decisions. Leaders are in a position of making decisions, so they themselves have to be able to be internally motivated and they have to have an internal drive for the work that they do, and they have to make their decisions based on their own personal values. So it's important for them to be aware of what those values are, and when they step into their position as a leader, they're able to influence others with their values. Also, they can use their emotional intelligence and their capacity for social skills and empathy to encourage others with feedback that they give and encourage others through putting the right people in the spotlight and using their wisdom to enhance other people's skills. Overall, we know that leaders set up what will happen and they're the ones who make the decisions. So it's important that they are able to speak with confidence. They are able to also exude the right energy for the entire company. So as a leader with being emotionally intelligent, you should use that to also encourage emotional intelligence in the workplace, in how people speak to one another and the kind of relationships they build. And the overall culture of the company can be led through that in people having positive relationships and reduce the stress in the company, which will increase the productivity and the motivation of the other employees. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Rokhaya, for your explanation. Now, let's move on to the benefits of the emotional intelligence and how it helps in decision making with Reda Khalil. Reda, you have the floor.
So, hello everyone. Today I'm going to talk about the benefits of emotional intelligence. One of the most important benefits of emotional intelligence is that it grants a better experience in working as a team. In an organization, employees who have higher emotional intelligence tend to work better as a team because they are able to communicate with other colleagues than those who have low emotional intelligence. They are also capable of accepting and diffusing ideas and opinions with other team members. Employees who are in tune with their emotional intelligence are very aware of the spirit of the team and would not only think about controlling the flow of the team, but would also think of other colleagues and give them the participation floor. They tend as well to value the others' input, listen to them, and have a strong belief in them. Another benefit of emotional intelligence is that it eases the environment on the office because it increases the morale and enhances in the workplace. A company is much more solid when the employees value and respect each other because it helps them get along and work towards the benefits of the company as a whole. The office also becomes not a place of hard course, but also a place of joy because the members will not only be pleased by the work they do win, and also by the company of other colleagues at work. Companies who are aware of the importance of the emotional intelligence also tend to make their workplace very enjoyable. They include, for example, a room where the members could take a break over a cup of coffee or healthy snack. They could as well exchange ideas and opinions and talk about the future of each trend. This is very important for creating and supporting the sense of the team inside the firm. Another benefit to emotional intelligence is that it makes change and adjustment inside the company much easier. As we know, firms are not supposed to stay stagnant in the fast-changing environment of today as it will lose its competitively. Employees are sometimes resistant to change as it implies a change in the whole process they are working with since a period of time. Here comes the importance of the emotional intelligence as it enables employees to embrace the change easier. Emotional intelligence also helps in enhancing the self-awareness and self-control amongst employees. They become more aware of their productivity level and know exactly what amount of time they need to accomplish a specific goal without giving false promises of them not delivering a task. They also accept guidance and criticism in the work, whereas other employees could be defensive about it. Another very important benefit of emotional intelligence is the ability to feel and show compassion for other members in the workplace. This is very beneficial for a firm to have employees who display compassion inside the workplace as it creates a strong bond inside the company and also helps create a supportive culture. Employees who have a high emotional intelligence are naturally very ambitious and work their best towards whether a personal or a professional goal. They tend to insist on achieving their aims and are not slowed down by obstacles facing them. This is a trait of personality that cannot be taught and that is very beneficial for firms. Emotional intelligence is a trait that is very much sought by companies when looking for quality leadership talents. These talents make a big difference in terms of efficiency and productivity. Talents with high emotional intelligence understand better their team members and have a positive effect on them. Now I'm gonna move to how emotional intelligence help in decision making. Often, anxiety and all kinds of emotions are the main factor of risky decisions. That's why managers or leaders tend to use their emotion intelligence in order to avoid this kind of mistakes and to take up the inept source of their emotions. Employees who use their emotional intelligence will accomplish all kinds of work successfully because emotional intelligence helps the employees to adapt to any change in state or culture and to take the right decisions with the advantages for the personal life of the employee along with the organization. In addition, emotional intelligence motivates the employees to do work as a family member in the organization. Thank you too much for watching.
Thank you everyone for watching our webinar. Now let's move on to the questions. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them in the comments. Oh, there is a question for Aya. Aya, you have a question.
Thank you,
Thank
Rami,
you,
for
Rami,
your
for your
question.
question.
So we
So
said
we
that
said
it
that
is
it is
important.
important.
Can you
Can you
please
please
mute your
mute
mic?
your mic?
Thank you. We say that it is important to watch your speaker gestures and your listeners' reaction because it is crucial to see if they understand what you are willing to say and if they see the same idea that you are trying to communicate. It is a crucial step because miscommunication often happens in the workplace or even in your daily discussions. So to avoid that, you should watch and see how they react as a way to understand if they understood or not. You can maybe reflect or ask for feedback to see if they really understood the same idea you are trying to say. Thank you for question, Rami. If you have another, please feel free to ask.
Thank you. Now we have another question for Iman. Who is it?
Hello, Radia. So, in order to remain calm and not let our emotions to overwhelm us, so as I said earlier, always keep in mind that your emotions are just temporary, and this is key to remain calm. For example, I'm going to give you a method that I personally use. Whenever I'm feeling a certain emotion that is negative, for example, anger or frustration, I always ask myself this question: am I going to be feeling the same way in 3 seconds, or in 3 minutes, or in 3 hours, and so on and so forth? So, just thinking and asking yourself this question will help you calm down, and you will be thinking and calmed, and you will be thinking about something else before you even realize it. So, I suggest that you use this method.
Thank you, Iman, for your answer. Okay, is there any questions, please? Feel free to ask them in the comments. Okay, I see that there is no more question. Oh, there is another question. Do you think that emotional intelligence exists in Moroccan companies? This question is for Reda Khidi.
I think emotional intelligence is companies. Yes, of course, emotional intelligence, as stated earlier, is one of the greatest that employees around the world are looking for and consider to be very beneficial for their firms. Morocco, of course, is not exception and is the fact one of the countries that pay a lot attention to social and emotional culture between employees. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other question? Feel free to ask them in the comments. Okay, I see that there is no more questions. So thank you for assisting our webinar, and see you next time.